All right, welcome to this month's user dev meeting. So I've prepared some slides to set the stage, and Neha and Gaurav are here presenting these ideas with me, so I'll let you all chime in as well. Let me share my screen though first. All right. All right, so this topic for this month is we're going to talk about our new, or this has always been an initiative, but our revamping of the call for user stories and case studies. So I'll keep going. So, as some of you may know by looking at our website, we've always had a lot of user stories and case studies about how all the interesting ways that people have been using Ceph. And however, these case studies are at this point older, and also Ceph has changed since we've last introduced case studies and user stories, and we'd like to revamp this idea and gather more user studies and case studies from the user community now, especially since Ceph has changed and grown a lot over the years. So this our goal is to build up a repository of Ceph use cases and success stories, in addition to what we already have on our site. I have a little screenshot of that there at the bottom. We also, through all this, we'd like to showcase innovative use cases beyond what we already have. And we have done, again, initiatives like this in the past, but we'd really like to drive this initiative to build build more cohesive stories. And we've also, collected a lot of information in the past, but we'd really like to build more of these use cases relating to more current features that Ceph has had. And how will we do this? We'd like to distribute a survey to the user community to collect case studies for those who'd like to share. And we'd like to feature these stories on their Ceph website, similar to how we have in the past. And in particular, we'd like to highlight impactful large-scale production environments, because these are the cases that we're most interested in, having to do with scalability, or if you're using multiple workloads, that kind of thing. And why do we want to highlight user stories and case studies? The ultimate goal is to encourage collaboration in the user community and expose new innovations and new use cases as Ceph continues to grow as a product and as a tool for all kinds of different use cases. And we also want to encourage and enrich the collective knowledge base in the user community. This has always been going on in the background of the user mailing list, but we want to really highlight these stories and have it in a way that's easily retrievable for people, easily accessible, and share use cases and also ways that we're using Ceph that so other people can learn in the community. And what exactly will we be looking for? So first of all, we're building a survey now that we'll send out shortly, in the next few weeks. But just to get in your minds what we're looking for, we're mainly looking for large scale production clusters to tell stories about. And the details that we might ask of somebody to include are like an overview of what your organization is doing. What is your use case for Ceph? We might ask for like the type of data that you're storing or the type of environment that you've set up. We'd like to know challenges and how Ceph might have helped you overcome them, benefits and results that you've seen, perhaps with performance and scalability. Since we're really interested in the large scale production clusters, and really details beyond just the application layer. So in the past, we've sent out surveys, ask to get a sense of what the use case is, and we've had some people respond, "Oh, I use it for RBD," but we want to know beyond just the application layer what you're using this for. And I just put an example of a past case study that we had, where we wrote an article about the United States Air Force choosing Ceph for storing critical flight data. So, obviously, some things are going to be, well, you'll always have a choice of what you decide to share or not. But this is the kind of use case where we'd really like to highlight, what the use case is beyond just the application layer, and also like how all the challenges that somebody overcame to get there. Next steps will be that we'll release a survey to the user and developer lists to gather these stories. We're preparing that now. But to prepare in advance to that, you can start to think about your Ceph use case and start to identify key challenges and successes that you've gone through. That's all that I have to set the stage for that. I'll open it up to questions, and Meha and Gaurav, if you'd like to elaborate on anything about that, feel free.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. So I guess one of the questions that everybody probably has in their mind is like, we already do a lot of things in order to encourage users to share their stories by means of Ceph Days, by means of Cephalocan, and mailing list, as you mentioned, Laura. How is this going to be different? The idea here is that we want to work very closely with some of the users to be able to showcase exactly what they had to go through to be able to make Ceph work for them in a way that is long lasting, right? The idea is not to just find out, like Laura mentioned, like, are you using it for RBD applications or CFFS? But the idea is that if you went through a journey of setting up a CFFS cluster for a use case, it is very likely that there are other users out there who would have to go through the same journey, and we want to make that common knowledge. So, in order to do that, it is important that even for the survey, we work with you in terms of what are the kind of questions that you think are reasonable to ask as well, because a lot of times some of the questions may be too high level for you to even understand what to respond with. So the idea would be to have questions that make sense in order to kind of reveal that real use case and the real challenges slash learnings that you've had along the way. So that's why I want to emphasize on that part, because otherwise it's just like doing one more survey that we've done, right? So this is going to be different in that sense.
Right, like for the past surveys, we've asked specifics about your performance workload or about application layers. But for this survey, we would really like to emphasize the journey that you made along the way, and the challenges that you overcame, and really, we want to make it so that if somebody else is wanting to do a similar use case, um, they can look at somebody else who's done that, and we can have a richer repository of information to draw on like that.
Um, yeah, and one more thing to add on top of it is we that way different users will and the community will also collect feedback based on our user experience, right? And you look forward to improve Ceph in a lot of ways by collecting feedback as well. So I think during your journeys, if you encountered any issues or challenges, and we think that it's a part of a larger problem that we can solve together. Maybe that can be nice as well, right?
Right, so I'll open the floor to any questions, and also we have a lot of people on the call today, which is really exciting to see. And um, just to before any survey is sent out, perhaps we can use today as a sharing forum of any new developments that anybody would like to report on in their Ceph clusters, especially since the last time that we've collected this information, Ceph has grown in its features and capabilities. So if anybody would like to share something, before we send a survey out, ad hoc, sharing. Um, that would be uh, a good time to do that. And we'd also like to thank a lot of you who have been attending all of the user dev meetings as regulars. We'd especially like to hear from you because we know that you have a really deep interest in stuff and that you're coming because because you're using it for interesting things and want to learn more. So thank you for that, for continuing to attend.
So what do users think about the idea? Would something like this be interesting? And I know there's going to be a bit of work involved, but if it's worth it, we are at least ready to go on this path and kind of come up with at least a subset of user stories and case studies that we can add to our website as as latest developments in the community. So, what do users particularly think about it? I think there's not enough coffee in the system yet for users. I can see Alex smiling. That's a good sign.
So I think it's sorry. I woke up like 20 minutes ago. But I do think it's a great idea to kind of advertise more about Ceph, because if you talk sometimes to some people, it's like, oh, this is Ceph, and what can I do with it? It's not very necessarily super clear from the get go if you have like no prior knowledge of what it is. So highlighting specific use cases is a great idea to further adoption, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things that I particularly hear is people have a past knowledge of Ceph, and that past knowledge could be 10 years ago, right? That's not what Ceph is today. So, as Laura mentioned, a lot of the capabilities that have been added recently are not highlighted as a user story, which is what one of the goals of this effort is going to be. Anybody else have any thoughts?
One thing I'd like to ask too, before as we're developing the survey, one thing that I've always tried to emphasize in the surveys is, there are some things that people may not want to share or they can't share for particular reasons. So I've always tried to make things optional to share. But I'm wondering if there's any particular like hesitation in the crowd that's here today about like, oh, I don't think I can share my use case for maybe due to restrictions in your organization. It'd be good to know that now, and if there's anything that those people are willing to share, or what the limitations are, so that we can build our survey in a way that's that everybody feels comfortable to answer.
Hey, Zach here. I was thinking about that because I work for a large consumer electronics company that doesn't share anything. And while this will be useful for us, I feel bad because I do want to get access to these surveys, because as an organization that's providing Ceph as a service to our company, I get hit day in and day out with a million different use cases where people are interested in some type of object or distributed file system. And while it's tough for us to share, we definitely want to see what other people are doing so we can determine whether or not this is a good fit for their use cases. But I was going to circle back with my team and kind of see if there's any generic questions or anything that they feel would be worthwhile to share, so we can at least share something with the community.
Yeah, I think that's totally understandable, Zach. And which is why we don't want to force you to reveal sensitive information. But like you mentioned, even if there are general feedback that you have about Ceph that you want to provide, without going into the details of about your company, etc., that's totally fine, right? I mean, the idea is for people to know that uh, the scale at which Ceph is getting used, what kind of performance characteristics you're trying to squeeze out of Ceph, and things like that. So generic information is good, and we do encourage that too. There's a comment from Frederick. Do you want to speak up, Frederick, or
He says he can't talk right now, but I'll read the comment. He
go for it?
says it sounds good. I'll try and get in touch with some French colleagues in higher education and research in the weeks to come to better know what they're doing and ask them if they want to share their use cases with the community. Yeah, that would be great. If we can reach people that aren't even attending this call. Oh, no worries, Frederick. Yeah, that would be great if we can reach people that aren't regulars on this call. We as many people as possible we'd like to reach. And yeah, going back to Zach's comment, um, part of what something that I've seen that has helped with the restrictions in the past is we will try to leave like open boxes in the or also everything will be optional on the survey to answer, but we'll try to leave open boxes so that you can, if there's things that you can't answer but you want to still share something that's maybe not on the survey, we really find that helpful when you fill out those extra comment boxes, because if there's something that you're willing to share that's not on the survey and everything else is too sensitive, we really would like to see, or we really are happy even when you fill out those extra comment boxes. So I'll make sure that that's a part of the survey.
And one thing that Frederick mentioned here actually reminds me. So what we're also interested in is it's not just about like the use case. It's also about like he mentioned research, right? Like we know a lot of universities are using Ceph as an open source solution to build storage for whatever they are doing research on, right? We are aware of CERN, we are aware of Posi supercomputing, and there are tons of other universities that are also using Ceph for their use case that we cannot name at this point, right? The idea would be to also get that known to the community. We are also looking forward to gather more information at CephLaCon, which will be another great opportunity to present this idea to the community and get more traction. And it's going to be a little bit of word of mouth. We need the community to help us reach the right audience as well. Stephen has a comment as well. Okay.
Steven says, similar to Zach, my organization doesn't want to share what tech they use, which is rather sad. Yeah, that's totally understandable. And to be clear, we have asked for specific or not about what tech, but like specific performance information in the past, and we may ask some things like that, but really what we'd like to know too is even a high level use case. So if all you're willing to share is a high level use case, that's totally fine. I'm curious, Stephen, what do you know what your organization's boundaries are at this time, or is that something you need to look into?
Hi, I mean, I'm not sure exactly if they're just not keen to disclose what magic they think they
Mhm.
have. But yeah, I mean, I'm certainly happy to fill in as much as I possibly can, and what bits I can't, or I'm not sure about, I'll go off and ask, and yeah, try and be as much use as possible.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, and our ambassadors group will also be there at Cephlocon. Some of the ambassadors from different regions across the globe. Please feel free to reach out to us at Cephlocon. We'll be happy to have discussions like this. Maybe you can also highlight the problems that you're facing or challenges that you're facing with Ceph, and maybe parts of information that are not sensitive, if that those can be shared with us just to help us understand all these things, can be really helpful.
Definitely. We have another comment wondering if the decision to begin developing the story once the survey is in would come back fast, like a simple yes, let's do this, or sorry, maybe in the future response. I work for a company that really takes care on what's being shared online regarding the brand name, and it would be a bummer to have people involved and then drop it in the middle. So yeah, it sounds like the question is asking like, what's the timeline for actually producing the stories? And we want to. This is not something that we would want to just drop in the middle. It does take time to take the survey information and build a story based on that information. But as Neha mentioned before, we would really like to work closely with those who fill out the survey and work with you along the way to produce the story. So it would be definitely not something that would be dropped in the middle, and it would be we would like to work closely with you if you've shared the information to build it into a story that that benefits us, but also benefits you.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, it needs to be a continuous effort. Like you mentioned, it does take time and effort from both sides to be able to come up with something that's meaningful. And some of you who've actually been involved with the previous surveys that we did for the User Council Initiative for Performance and Orchestration, we went through a couple of iterations, right? We did a survey which was more open ended. We kind of discussed the results, and we thought that we could do better in terms of some pieces of information that we were trying to capture, and we followed up with another more targeted survey. So we might go that route as well. So I don't expect this to be a short-term thing, to answer your question in chat.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, it may not be an instant, like the day after the survey, we have all these articles published, but it's not something that we would drop in the middle. We would like to see this through and really see a lot of um, results from it. These are all good comments and questions. Does anybody else have any concerns or in general feedback?
I would also like the developers on the call to also speak up and say what they think about the idea. There is a thumbs up from someone.
Thumbs up. Thanks, Casey. All right, I'm not hearing any more feedback, but feel free to contact me or Neha or Gaurav about any kinds of feedback you might have, after this. But in the next coming week or so, we will distribute the survey, and we'll let you know over the user email list, and also over Slack. We have the dedicated user dev meetup channel that we use on Slack, so we'll also notify everybody there. And yeah, as somebody said before, that they'll let other people know in their network. Please let other people know in your network that we're doing this, who aren't attending the call, and we'd really like to see feedback from as many people as we can.
Hi, it's Lee here. I just want to say a few things, if that's okay. I'm a developer. I've worked on quite a few different storage products over around about 30 years. I've been involved in developing storage products, and finding out about customer use cases or client use cases is actually extremely important for the developer community, because it allows us to understand whether we're doing the right, developing the right features for that particular storage product, and it also allows us to understand more how about clients are actually using the storage products, so that we can have better understanding of what we're actually developing. I think there's a lot to be gained by these understanding these use cases, and how customers and clients are actually using Ceph. So I would personally find it very valuable as well.
Thank you, Lee. I wholeheartedly agree. It's always very important for us developers to know how the product is getting used, because that actually helps us increase the way that we're testing the product as well, because a lot of the time we're building particular workloads to test the capabilities of Ceph, or catch any regressions. But if we don't know, or if it's being used in a way that we're not aware of, that would really help to know and help us increase the way that we're testing and creating features around Ceph.
Yeah, a lot of times, we rely on things like our telemetry, that we go look and see how many users are using a particular feature, or how many users are looking at changing certain configurations, which are essentially like non-default. But that's more like data that we are, constantly capturing from upstream clusters, but it doesn't tell us a story. What we're looking for here is a story, which is why it's important to connect more than just looking at data.
Yeah, we often make a lot of assumptions when we're building features into a storage product, and sometimes those assumptions are incorrect, and users always come up with new use cases that we've never really thought of before. So I think this is actually could be quite valuable to the community.
Absolutely. And, as I mentioned before, we're really looking for like production environments, and also environments with scalability. That would be really interesting to know, because we've identified several issues with scalability recently. And those kinds of cases are always more difficult to know how far to push the Ceph clusters in order to identify bottlenecks. So if there's, uh, a way that somebody's using their cluster in a very scalable manner, we'd definitely like to know about that. And any challenges that you've experienced with getting your cluster to be that scalable, but also success stories as well. But ultimately, you'll see all of this when we distribute the survey in the next coming week or so. And you don't need to think too hard about it before then. But if I want to go back to the slide about next steps, just start having in your mind just thinking about your Ceph use case and what you can share beyond just the application layer, because we really want to dig deeper this time about what you're using Ceph for beyond the use case, and start to identify the challenges and successes that you went through to set up your Ceph cluster in the way that you're using it now, and maybe how your use case has changed over the years. Like the last time that we collected this information, your use case might have changed since then. So why did it change? What are you trying to do now? That kind of thing. I see a question. Once distributed, where will we be able to find the survey? Neha, I think we can make this publicly available.
Yeah,
Can we find it? Yeah.
We'll make it available wherever you can find any Ceph information. So like mailing lists in our social media, and most likely we'll do a post about it. So on our website too.
Yes.
That's what we kind of did. So it's going to be like the previous surveys we've done for performance and orchestration. It's going to be similar, but the focus is going to be different this time.
Right. So if you follow the user mailing list, you'll see it there. Also the Slack channel. And yeah, as Neha said, we've been working with the social media to publish those things as well. So we'll also publish it on all of our social media platforms. All right. Any final thoughts, questions about this initiative, which is not new? It's always been here, but we're reviving it and building up. This is something that again Neha mentioned, continuousness. This may not be the only time that, or hopefully this isn't the only time that we gather this information. So we'd like to make this a continuous effort in the Ceph user dev community to continue gathering these stories.
Laura, can you please share a link to the slides?
Of course, yeah. I'll upload them to, I think the best way to do that is to upload it to a GitHub repository, and I'll share the link on the Etherpad.
Sure, thanks.
All right. Thanks everybody for your time. And go ahead. Yeah.
I know we have almost half hour left. Does anybody have any other topics to bring up?
I guess one thing, and like we talk about a lot about improvement and all of that. But one thing that I wanted to point out is that has been improved massively recently. So I wanted to really thank the community for that. Is the path to upgrades. So I've been doing Ceph since 2012 and operating it at a large scale provider for 6+ years now. And upgrades of Ceph used to scare us because there used to be small regression here or there, depending on hardware type, whether you have AGD on FileStore, AGD on BlueStore, Flash on SATA, Flash on NVMe, yada yada. And we are in the middle of a massive round of major upgrades, and we've seen no regression, no issue, everything went smoothly. So big thank you to the community for improving that behind the scene. It's really, really cool to see the improvement over the years.
It's great feedback, Alex. And we get a sense of that too, because anytime we used to do a new release, we used to be like, let's not do it on a Friday, otherwise our weekend is spoiled. But we are not scared anymore, I have to say that. And thanks to all the effort that the developers are also putting in. We put in a lot of investment in terms of our upgrade suites, making more gates in terms of like doing large-scale testing on the GIBA environment that we have, which is additional to the long-running cluster that we already do upgrades for point releases. So there's a lot of investment that has gone in, and I'm glad to see and hear good feedback about the upgrade experience.
Alex, are you using Ceph ADM to upgrade?
No, so we evaluated all these solutions, but we have such a scale that for us it's worth building our own tooling to develop, because that way we can deploy and integrate with our own infrastructure in kind of one click. And Ceph ADM would just need, basically we'd have to wrap Ceph ADM, which feels like an anti-pattern really. So we're using our own custom Ansible solution.
I see.
I'd like to echo
That's
that
really great to
same
hear.
thing. The upgrades have been much smoother. Even going to Squid, very remarkably smooth. Without Ceph ADM though, we don't use that either. I did have one little question though about is there anywhere published just your best guesses on when the next patch releases for each of the main things are coming out? It's always, I'm not really sure where to go to find where the current thinking is. It's not to put pressure on, it's just for our own planning.
Yes, I mean, you're more interested in a particular feature when it's landing in a release, or are you interested in general when a particular release is landing?
More when the next patch release is coming. For example, we've got 19.2.0 at the moment, when 19.2.1 might be out, and then just the major things that are going to be in it. It would be useful just to have an abbreviated timeline available somewhere, just so that we know, well, okay, that because we know that there's 2 or 3 things that we're holding off on in Squid until they come out, and we're expecting them to be in the next one. But it would just be useful to have somewhere where we can just keep an eye on when the next one is likely to be out, and the big ticket things that will be in it.
Yeah. So, in terms of when the next release is going to come up and which release that's going to be, so at any point in time, we try to maintain 2 active releases. At this point, we have 3 because Quincy is still not EOL. So the idea is that we try to publish releases on an alternating basis for all the active releases. How to track that? The best way to do that is that we have a meeting on every Monday, which is called the Ceph Steering Committee meeting. It's on the community calendar as Ceph Leadership Team meeting. That's the meeting where we discuss releases every week. And if you're not able to attend those meetings, you can also follow the Etherpad. I'll link that here. Essentially, the idea is we have notes every week taken for which release we are prioritizing next. And that is also another opportunity to kind of raise awareness about some pressing issues in the community for which we might need to expedite a particular release and not follow the regular cadence. But I think that's the best way currently to see what release is coming up when. In terms of your question about what features are landing in, we are publishing our roadmap in terms of major releases. And like Tentacle is the next major release that's going to come up. So we have at all the Ceph days and Cephlicon, we will publish our roadmap for all the features that are going to land in that particular release, component wise. So that is one opportunity to look at big picture items. But in terms of smaller features and stuff, I think the best way at the moment is to look at pull requests and trackers and follow along. So we're not publishing like big items for point releases, because the idea is point releases are supposed to be essentially bug fixes or minor enhancements. So for that, we kind of expect people to look at pull requests, but for major items and major releases, we publish our roadmaps in terms of slide decks that are available for viewing on our website, on YouTube, etc.
Yeah, I appreciate that for the detail. Just an example, though, one of the reasons we're holding off on the Squid going to Squid is for the balancer fix. It would just be, it's a little bit tedious sort of trying to hunt through pads and things and just to try and find what your current expectations are, for the next couple of months or something like that. Even if it just said, well, 1921 expected approximately then major things balancer. Just somewhere where just a page where you could go to just to find the current status and your current thinking on each release. Not in detail, wouldn't expect that, but just the really big things.
Yeah, that's good feedback. I think I'm going to take this back to our steering committee and see what we can do. Maybe we can have like we already track things that are going to land in 1921 in terms of a tracker system, Redmine tracker. Maybe we can have a target release for big items like this balance of fix that you're talking about, and that way people can filter, or we can also make that available as a filtered list of items that's coming up in a release. But yeah, this is good feedback. I'm going to take this back and try to see what actionable items can come out of it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anything else that people would like to bring up? All right. If not, you can always, send a message in the, this is the Slack channel, the Ceph user dev meetup Slack channel, or on the user list, and we'll see you all next month. And look out for the survey in the meantime. But we'll alert all of you, of course, when we've sent it out.
Hope to see some of you at Ceph. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.